So, bearing that in mind, the key question being, at what point does it become a psychiatric illness? And how do we define what are the symptoms of a psychological disorder or psychiatric illness versus just an everyday experience and a character flaw? So let's take being lazy as an example that we used last time. Is that a symptom of a psychiatric illness, or is that just a character flaw? Is that just a part of someone's personality? And the way that we're going to explore that is through diagnostic criteria or diagnosing psychiatric illnesses. So, here are some ways we might be able to do it. Could we define a psychiatric illness as something that violates social norms? So, social norms being how the average population behaves, thinks, feels, and functions in society and in everyday life. So, if a person's thinking or behaviour is classified as abnormal, then does that mean that it is a psychiatric illness? Potentially. However, highlighted in red, social norms vary by culture, by place, and over time. So social norms have changed in the last decade, they've changed in the last century. So it's a potentially slightly weak way of defining a psychiatric illness. For example, homosexuality, being gay, was considered a psychological disorder or psychiatric illness by the World Health Organization until 1980. And there are similar examples of this, like being psychotic or having psychosis or schizophrenia, that were previously were previously seen as character flaws, but are now psychiatric disorders with diagnoses and treatments. So it's a slightly difficult way to define a psychiatric disorder. Are there any better ways? Let's have a look. Another way is, does the condition, let's take depression, does it violate statistical norms? So look at the bar graph and look at the middle one with the most. So let's say the average person or the average population fits into that section in terms of having depressive symptoms. There are people on each end of the spectrum, so people with hardly any depressive symptoms on the left, and then there are people with potentially more depressive symptoms. I know this is an IQ graph, but let's just use depression as the example here. At what point along this graph does it become a psychiatric illness? Because there's a little bit of a grey area, you'll notice, in terms of normal sadness, which we all experience day to day. We all experience sadness at different points in our life as a natural reaction. It's a natural human emotion. At what point does that normal sadness become a clinically diagnosable psychiatric illness? So again, it's a difficult way and potentially not the best way to define a psychiatric illness. Let's have a look at a potentially other way.